Everyone joined except Amma. Maybe I hope she understood.
I know. It is recording now, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Custom live streaming service. Yes.
Correct.
Even Anand Vavila didn't come.
Yeah.
Anand. Maybe in a minute he may come.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Oh no, somebody else. There. Yeah.
You can see? No.
Yeah.
No.
See and hear, all good.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Now you can see one screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, Anant has joined. Right. Okay, great. So, we were talking about how Krishna actually goes back from the Vishwarupa to the Vishnu Rupa, right? Vishnu Rupa, Vishnu, the form of Vishnu. And from Vishnu, he now goes back to the Manushya Rupa itself. So Arjuna is really glad to finally get his buddy back, and he starts, he's like really relieved that Krishna can actually go back. And so this is the shloka where he says, Arjuna uvacha drishvedam manusham rupam tava saumyam janardhana. And idanim asmi samvrittaha sachetaha prakritim gataha. So Arjuna admits here that when he sees that Saumyam, that Saumya, beautiful face of Krishna, the normal and the gentle form of Krishna, he feels, so highly relieved. And it's like all of us too, we may go all the way to Hawaii or Grand Canyon, but once I come home, and I sit on my sofa or something, I am like so relieved of all my tensions and agitations, right? So to Arjuna is like, okay, you gave me this great exposure to all this huge thing, but I'm really not ready for it. I'm totally unprepared. And I want to go back to where, you were before. So this pleasing form of Sri Krishna is glorified in Srimad Bhagavatam a lot, Like, for example, the gopis of Vrindavans, they say, no, your beauty makes all this worlds auspicious, but when even the cows, they're all enthralled by this when they see your beautiful form. So always this beautiful form of Krishna is always emphasized so much. And here, he calls him, hey, Janardana. Again, bringing him back to where he knows, so artha means, one who moves or makes others move. And so jana means people, right? So therefore janardana means one who can move people to heaven or hell. And in other words, a person who can give justice to everyone. So that is what Janardana, he looks up to Krishna is actually, Arjuna is looking up to Krishna and says, hey, Janardana, someone to whom I can now go back as my mentor who can bring all whatever I want. So he, before, of course, he also had referred to him as Ishvara and everything. But here he says, I really love you as Janardana, hey Krishna. So please go back to being that one. And then, he says, Idavnim asmi samvrittaha. Go back to, find him. So glad you've gone back to your normal state. Sachetaha. Chetaha means, mind, right? He says, finally, I've got my mind back. So previously my mind was stunned by this vision of Vishwarupa. Now I've got my mind, he's like so relieved he's got his own mind back. and prakritim gataha, meaning that I am finally back to my natural self, and I feel good that I'm seeing your normal self. So that is what Arjuna says here. So with this, actually, the cosmic vision part of it is all completely ended. And this last 4 verses of this chapter 11, what we're looking is like what is to come in the 12th chapter. So, as we've talked about before, the first 6 chapters is all about Karma Yoga. This 6 is about Bhakti Yoga. So far, that Bhakti Yoga part of it, now we will see in its full glory in the 12th chapter. Okay. But again, Krishna is preparing us. All this time he had to, I mean, it was pretty loaded if you think about it, all the way from the 7th chapter, where Krishna had to give us an exposure to his true self, which was his Vishwarupa, all the way from the 7th chapter. And next week, when we meet to discuss the entire summary of the 11th, we'll touch upon that aspect of from 7th to 11th, how the transition has been. So this theme of Nirguna and Saguna Bhakti actually was introduced in some ways in this end of last section. And now you will see the grand finale of the Bhakti coming up in the 4th one. And in some ways, that Bhakti was shown in the Vishwarupa, it was shown in the Vishnu Rupa, which is actually equivalent to, like Vishwarupa, you can even think about it as the Nirguna Rupa, and Vishnu Rupa is the Saguna Bhakti. So these two forms, was given, Arjuna was given that exposure, and you could see that, when Arjuna requested Krishna to go back to this Manusha, human form, he was actually more comfortable with the Saguna Bhakti. The Vishwarupa was way too much for him and he was not yet ready for it. So in Shloka 52, you will see where he is expressing, he is expressed, and now Krishna is starting to talk about this part of it here. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sutur Darshamidam Rupam Drishtavanasi Yanmama Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drashtavanasi Yanmama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. So he says Sudur Darsham, it's extremely rare. So Krishna is saying it's really, really difficult for anybody to see this form of who I am. Sudur Darsham, Idam Rupam, my Rupa, Drishtavan Asi Yat Mama, of mine, which you had seen, Drishtavan Asi Yat Mama, Devaha Api Asya Rupasya. Even the gods also, who are really wanting to see this, they also have not had this opportunity what you have had, because it's extremely difficult for them as it is for us. So that is, of course, now with our background in Chinmay Mission and Balavihar, we really know all these, the number of numerous gods and goddesses that we have, they're all, in a sense, nothing but functional heads, right? The ultimate, and I think the word functional head is actually a good one, because now we know they're all in charge of certain departments. And we like a particular department, so we pray to that particular department. So, for example, if I'm a businessman, I would love to only pray to Goddess Lakshmi all the time, So if I'm a person who really wishes the best for starting off, I will pray to Lord Ganesha. So each person has been given this one. But even for such gods, what he's saying is that what Krishna is saying, Arjuna, is what you have received so far, it's a very, very rare phenomena that I have given you. And this is, just that Vishwarupa, Lord Vishnu's Vishwarupa you see here, where everything, all the forms, etc., has been explained. So Sudur Darsham, actually, some of you who have gone through Kathopanishad also, there also Nachiketa actually goes to Yama, and when he asks him, what happens to the soul after death, Yama tries to distract him with boons of wealth and power, but everything fades. Eventually, he finally says, Nachiketa, do you know what? Even the gods are anxious to know this answer to this question of, really what the nature of the ultimate is, but they've not been able to figure it out. So they were atrapi vichikitsam pura. That's how he says in Kathopanishad. So the same thing here Krishna is telling him, and that even the gods have desired to see this, they have not seen it. But now the question may be asked, why is it that the gods also are not able to see it? What do you think? Even the gods, they have not been able to see it. How come Arjuna is able to see it? And how come, because the whole idea is that even at the level of God, they are subject to the same three gunas of the creation. Okay, they are part of the creation. Again, if you think about that self-unfoldment, we have the Maya chapter. In Maya chapter, we have, in fact, in Maya chapter, there you will see how the placement of the gods, they're all part of Maya. Now, what Arjuna got exposed to was like even beyond Maya. He was able to see the aspect of Krishna in that, how that Maya was created and everything. So he was able to see that as a movie, something outside of him. So, if the gods are not able to see it, like even Indra, right? Indra is considered to be the king of gods. And you can see that even Indra is sort of plotting to remove someone who has an eye on his throne. So Krishna is saying that even gods, they are part of the creation. They are also competitive, and because of the gunas and everything. So, but of course, Krishna will give a more detailed answer. But that's why he says even the gods are not able to see it. It's extremely difficult for them. Okay. So then in Shloka 53, Krishna starts to actually give you, like when Anant was asking, what are the sadhanas? So Krishna starts to list all the sadhanas. So first, he will actually say, okay, these are all the sadhanas that you're doing today. Okay. And then he'll say, guess what? All these sadhanas are still not going to be able to take you to where you want to go. Now, of course, if we are a child, then we'll say, what's the point then? Why am I going there? Why can't I just skip all of them, right? So he will say, how he will list all the Vedas. For us, the Vedas are the Bible, correct? Vedas are the books that we have to know. So he will first list the Vedas, which refers to actually all the material things in the Karma Kanda and all that. And then, of course, when we go to Jnana Kanda, where Upanishads are, which gives us the final spiritual things, he'll give you all that. He will explain how this knowledge leads to leading a very purposeful and ethical life, which is the first step for all of us, right? That is where we get to practice a karma yoga itself. Karma yoga can be practiced only when I lead or it allows me to lead an ethical life, which will give me peace. So then by encouraging a life in all these stages, then only you can even think about moksha, right? So all this, he will say, so then Krishna then reminds that none of these methods ultimately will take you to that Ishvara. And again, he explains why. So let's read the shloka. And this words have come before also in verse 48, Same thing he talks about Vedas, Naham Vedairna tapasa, Naham Vedairna tapasa, Nadanena na chejyaya, Nadanena na chejyaya, Shakya evam vidho drashtum, Shakya evam vidho drashtum, Drashtavanasi mam yatha, Drashtavanasi mam yatha. So, of course, we have to read the Vedas, but the point about the shloka is that reading the Vedas alone is not going to get you there. Okay? So, now in comparison of the shloka to 48, where the same words, Vedas and all came, the difficulty of seeing the Vishwarupa was pointed out. So, over there, but here it is in connection with seeing him as the ultimate self, So it's not that we shouldn't be doing it. They are absolutely necessary for us, for our spiritual growth. But to get to the highest level, this by itself is not enough. So having said that, he says, Arjuna, you are a rare exception here. And again, getting that thing of Vishwarupa, we talked about how there are only 2 or 3 people who actually got to see the Vishwarupa. Arjuna was one of them. And so it is very rare to this one because even Devas cannot get it. And what ultimately Krishna is trying to point out here is, like Vedas, all this is the Jnana Kanda, right? And austerity, the tapaha, or by giving gifts, by sacrifices, all these are some form of karma yoga where we are trying to do this. So ultimately, he's trying to say that the only thing that really works is having that ananya bhakti. And he'll come to that again, So that absolutely Tivra bhakti, we call this, that is the only thing that works. And that is why this last 4 shlokas, he's pointing to this, saying that if that one sadhana, if I've understood it completely well, then that itself is enough. And therefore he's saying that, comparison to bhakti, all these sadhanas are still lower. Bhakti alone is the most important sadhana. That is the message where he's trying to get to here, which is Naham Vedane Tapasa. And Na Danena Na Chejya, we had already saw the Taittiriya Upanishad Shikshavalli, right? So he's trying to just bring that aspect of it. It is, yes, it's impossible to behold this form. You've seen it, but it's not easy because the gods also would like to do it, but they're so involved in the creation that they don't have the time to do the bhakti part of it. And so, in a sense, the key statement which I really want to point out here, which maybe you have also guessed it, is that all the study of Vedas and scriptures and even this high tapas, all this is essentially at the human being level, right? It's at the body level or it is at the level of a mortal. Okay? That's the key statement here. It's like, at the level of the mortal, how can a mortal ever become immortal? Okay? It's a powerful statement because all these things are done only by a physical person, a mortal. But that realization is an immortal state. You can never go from a finite to an infinite. Correct? You can't go from a finite to an infinite. A finite is always limited. Infinite is limitless. So the corollary of this whole thing is I am a limitless being, actually. Okay? I'm a limitless being. I am actually infinite, but I have been thinking that I am a finite being all this time. Okay? So I am actually infinite. I am actually, like the ocean and the water example, which we bring it up all the time. Okay? I am that water. I'm not the wave. The wave comes, the wave dies. And, but I think that I'm the wave all the time, even though I'm actually that water, if I have to use the ocean analogy. So I am an infinite being, but I think, and I am doing so in this shloka also. Of course, I have to do all these sadhanas for me to finally get to an understanding that ultimately bhakti is needed. So, bhakti is the final sadhana. So, that's even though, when you read the shloka, Vedai, Evam Aham, all this, even though I may be a great scholar, I may be doing all this, ultimately, it's that I have to drop all this at some point. But I cannot now, suppose I tell this to my teenage son or whatever, he'll say, okay, why even get into it? Why do I have to go to Balavihar? You have told me that anyway it's of no use. That's not the case. You have to, because it's only in the Vedas. You take the step-by-step approach. First, I have to cleanse the mind and everything. Karma Kanda gives me that opportunity. And then in Jnana Kanda, only when I've given up all activities which is connected to my ego or my simple self, can I really focus on something which is higher. So the Vedas gives that. And then na danena. Here we have to be careful when we look at this. So by charity, also one cannot really achieve that Vishwarupa Darshanam. But that doesn't mean that charity is useless. Charity is needed because it drops that mamatvam of myself. So to that, I have to give up that thing. So dhanam is important, but the context in which it is being said is important. Okay? And nurture ejaya. Ejaya means rituals. So I think, all the Ashwamedha Yajna and all these in the olden days, and even today, when we do a lot of rituals, they are all necessary. But as a sadhana to get that absolute Vishwarupa Darshanam, it is not necessary. That is what he's saying. But again, it is a context that is important. What is the time? What is the time now? I want to make sure. Oh, yeah, we have some time.
25.
Yeah. So we have another 5 minutes. So now we come to the penultimate shloka here, which is 54, where ultimately, Krishna is coming to saying that, how there is really a logic to the whole thing. So Bhakti Yoga is not something where, which can be, there is a logic on how you go to this. And this is the part he's saying, Bhaktya tvananyaya shakyaha, Bhaktya tvananyaya shakyaha, ahamevam vidhurjuna, ahamevam vidhurjuna, Bhaktya tvananyaya shakyaha, ahamevam vidhurjuna, Jnatum drashtum cha tatvena, Jnatum drashtum cha tatvena, Praveshtum cha parantapa, Praveshtum cha parantapa. So, ultimately, the only sufficient condition here, he says, is that one has to have that ananya bhakti. Okay, bhaktya tu ananya shakyaha. So only by single pointed, it is possible. Okay? Aham evam vidaha Arjuna. In this manner, can you obtain this? Jnatum drashtum cha tatvena. So this, it can be known. Drashtum. So there's actually 3 levels he's saying here. Drashtum, you can be first you have to know drashtum. No, first Nyatum to be known, Drashtum to be seen, and finally Praveshtum cha Parantapa. Okay, so the point is that direct experience, vision of this is possible again only when you have that Ananya Bhakti or the single-minded devotion of the Lord, and that is what he wants to really bring out. Krishna wants to bring out in this conclusion of this chapter here. So this is, of course, this will be completely expanded. This Ananya Bhakti will be expanded in the 12th chapter. Okay. So Krishna is revealing the means by which you can actually see this form. It cannot be done, like as he said, by Vedas or rituals or anything. It's only Ananya Bhakti which is needed here. And so this Ananya Bhakti evam drashta. So which means that Bhakti alone is important, and this has to be Ananya Bhakti. So now the question is, what is Ananya Bhakti? And that we have to actually start all the way from the 7th chapter, where we had talked about the 4 kinds of Bhakti. Do you remember the 4 types of Bhakti which was talked in 7th chapter? One is that Artha Bhakti, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Jnani. Yeah, those 4, it can actually be reduced even like 3 levels, but this 4 levels is Artha, first I pray to the Lord because I want something, Artha. Artharthi is, and then Jignasu, and these levels, first is actually, I said, this Sakama Bhakti. The first, I need something, only when I get something. So it's more or less like a business. You do this for me, I will come and do more pujas for you. He's saying that. And then after that is fulfilled, only then I get to this level where I get to the next level. And finally, I begin to understand that, God is not a means for me to get to what I want. God is the end by itself. So, bhaktya tvananyaya shakyaha. So, the word ananya, of course, will come many times. And chapter 9, I think we saw that, right? So, everyone has... Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
In chapter 3, you said these 4 Artha, Arthatri, Jignasa, and Jnani. And then you also said the 3 kinds of bhakti you elaborated. God is the means, world things or the end. That is the lowest. That is called Manda Bhakti.
Okay.
And then you said God is the end in itself. That is called Madhyama Bhakti.
Correct.
And then God is neither the means nor the end. That's what you said as 3rd.
Correct.
Is there a name for that?
It is that ultimate consciousness, Brahman or Atman. In fact, I have one slide here which goes into some aspects of it. So it is that ultimate, which is beyond that means or the goal, so that's Brahman.
Okay.
Yeah. So bhaktyat pananyaya shaktiham aham evam viduhu arjuna nyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. It's a very, these 2 shlokas are very powerful, this 54 and 55. Basically, first, one needs to have that vision and the knowledge. That's what this Nyatum Drashtum, to know, to visualize, to see, to understand, all this Arjuna has been given. So he has now understood the Vishwarupa, he has understood who that real Lord is, which, previously in the last, we discussed about who really is Ishvara, right? So now, how can I really get to the last part, Praveshtum cha Parantapa? That is the part, he has understood all the explanations. Now he has to really Praveshtum, which means enter, He was standing all this, but it has to be born in his mind that this fulfillment of that God, that consciousness of this one is not just enough if I have the vision. He got the vision of Vishwarupa and knowing him in a special way, but he now needs to practice, right? So the 12th chapter actually has so much amount of sadhana there, how to, even more description, but more importantly, it's just pure bhakti. It's a beautiful, such a small chapter, 20 shlokas. And this is the 12th chapter. Of course, when we come to it, we can talk more about it. But the point is, we all should take the time to at least memorize the 12th chapter, The 12th, just by memorizing that and understanding the words of the 12th chapter, you can see how that Ananya Bhakti is the most important. Even if I can just develop that part of it, I'm right there. It's like you get triple promotion or whatever. You can skip all this Vedas and all this if I understand that, of course. And that is what that memorization of this is necessary. And here I just wanted to put, how we started off initially by this pair of opposites, right? So the defects in this world is we have this pair of opposites, joy and sorrow. And whatever I might do, anything in this world, I'm still not happy. Okay? That is why I'm saying that there's no fulfillment. And the third one is I am really addicted to so many things. For us, before we had this internet and social media and everything, we were probably addicted to something else, maybe food, clothing, all this, even as I'm growing old, right? But then now the addiction is becoming even worse. So all these defects of the world, I really have to clearly understand and get out of it. So that is the part of it, which is the first one, which is Jnatum. I have to understand that this is what this. And then Tatvena Drashtum. Tatvena Drashtum means a person who then understands and reflects and is able to see, okay? See that the Lord, who that Lord really is. That's the second step. So that is what in this, he's giving, this is a sadhanas. And I'm glad Anant asked this question about finally, how do I get out of this is, first I have to understand that the world is a pair of opposites. I have to understand that I'm getting addicted to it. And whatever I do, I'm never going to be fulfilled. So why not I choose something which I can really be fulfilled? So that is why that word, this Ananya Bhakti is so very important. And in the the Shloka 55, which we will do next week, he really talks about this beautiful shloka, which again comes up later. Mat karma krit, mat paramaha, mat bhakta, sangha varjitaha, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, yasa mameti pandava. So we will discuss this final shloka next week, which will be the perfect segue to 12th chapter. But we will try and see how we can chant it. If we are not chanting it, I will at least record it and send it to you, because I did try to, I chant, when I tried to chant, I think it came to almost 18 minutes, because this chapter is a big one. So we will see how we can do that. And so this is what we will go over next week.
Harom.
Yes, Anand.
Okay. Yeah, as we were discussing on the questions before, just thinking on that. And as the Shankar Jayanti is coming up, soon. Yeah, and the Advaita is the concept.
Correct.
It would eliminate the dvandvas, thinking
Correct.
that everything is God.
Mhm.
That's one way to approach and to deal with the dvandvas.
Correct. Correct. So the realization that ultimately everything is nothing but Advaitam. Yeah, it is such a coincidence, isn't it? I mean, we had yesterday that great ceremony of the new Shankaracharya, the new Swamiji coming on, and then May 2nd, which is Sunday, is going to be Shankar Jayanti. And we are talking here about Ananya Bhakti, which can happen only if I realize what is Advaitam. And Advaitam is beyond the pair of opposites, which is what the Jignasu and Jnani type of bhakti is tending towards.
May 8th is Gurudev's.
Birthday, yes. Yeah, the two things coming
May
up.
8th is next Thursday.
May 8th is Thursday.
Yeah,
May
I
7th,
don't.
yeah, it is Thursday. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll meet on May 7th for you. It's May 8th for me, actually, early morning, but I can do it 6 to 7 in the morning for me. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. Purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. You have to stop the recording.
Right, that's what I'm trying to
Hari
do.
Om.
Hari Om.
Hari.
Yes. Oh, stop sharing. If I stop sharing.